It all began on a quiet Saturday afternoon when I decided to clean out the storage unit in my garage. Boxes filled with old family photographs, mismatched shoes, and forgotten memories cluttered the space. Among the chaos, I stumbled upon a box labeled Emma's stuff, in my sister's neat handwriting. My sister Emma and I had been close once, but our relationship had grown distant over the years, strained by misunderstandings and time. I opened the box, curious about its contents, and found her old phone tucked under a stack of faded notebooks. The phone was a relic from years ago, back when flip phones had given way to the early touch screens. On impulse, I decided to charge it nostalgia, perhaps. Or simply the curiosity of uncovering pieces of Emma's life that I had missed. The phone came to life, displaying a pixelated wallpaper of her and me at a carnival years ago. The sight made me smile, but that smile faded as I scrolled through her messages. Most of them were harmless conversations with friends, family, and coworkers. But then I stumbled upon a thread with a contact saved only as H. At first, I thought little of it. Maybe it was a work colleague or a friend I didn't know. But as I read further, the tone of the messages shifted. H, can't wait to see you tonight. Emma, me neither. Wish we didn't have to sneak around. The messages sent a chill down my spine. The timestamps were from 6 years ago. Right in the middle of my marriage to Daniel. My fingers trembled as I continued reading, each message like a dagger to my chest. H, she'll never find out. We're careful, Emma, I feel so guilty, but I can't stop. I love you. I scrolled up, desperate to confirm my growing suspicion, and there it was. A picture of Daniel, my husband at the time, smiling that same charming smile he always had. My world tilted as the realization sank in my sister and my husband had been having an affair behind my back. The memories came rushing back, each one now tainted by betrayal. The late nights at work Daniel had explained away, the sudden coldness in Emma's demeanor when she visited, the way she avoided my eyes at family gatherings. It all made sense now. They had been lying to me, conspiring to maintain their secret while I remained blissfully ignorant. But then, my thoughts wandered to the early days of my relationship with Daniel. The whirlwind romance, the laughter, the stolen kisses under moonlit skies. I remembered how he used to surprise me with my favorite flowers, how his touch once made my heart race. Those memories felt like distant dreams now, eclipsed by the betrayal I had uncovered. How could the man who once professed undying love for me have strayed so far? I slammed the phone shut and sat there, staring at the box as if it might offer some explanation or justification. But there was none. I felt an overwhelming mix of anger, hurt, and betrayal. How could the two people I loved and trusted most do this to me? And why now, years later, was this coming to light? For hours, I stayed in the garage, replaying moments in my mind and questioning everything I thought I knew. By the time I finally went inside, the anger had given way to a resolve I needed answers. Emma lived a few towns over, in a cozy suburban house with her husband and 2 kids. I hadn't seen her in nearly a year, our relationship having faded into polite but distant exchanges. I called her, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. Hey, Emma, it's me, I said when she answered. I found a box of your old stuff while cleaning. Can I drop it off? Oh, wow. Sure, she replied, sounding surprised, but pleased. Come by anytime. That afternoon, I drove to her house with the box in the trunk and a knot in my stomach. When Emma opened the door, she greeted me with a warm smile that felt like a cruel joke. It's so good to see you, she said, pulling me into a hug. I stiffened but hugged her back. You too, I lied. Let's talk. I found something you might want to explain. We sat in her living room, the box between us. I pulled out the phone and placed it on the coffee table. Her expression shifted immediately from curiosity to dread. Emma, I need to know the truth, I said, my voice cracking. Why were you texting my husband? Her face paled, and she looked away, unable to meet my eyes. I don't know what to say, she stammered. Start with the truth, I snapped, my anger bubbling to the surface. Emma took a deep breath and finally met my gaze. It was a mistake, she said softly. I was lonely, and he was there. I never meant to hurt you. Her words felt hollow, an empty excuse for the pain she had caused. You didn't just hurt me, Emma. You destroyed me. How could you? Tears streamed down her face as she tried to explain, but I didn't want to hear it. No justification could undo the betrayal or the years I had spent doubting myself, thinking I wasn't enough for Daniel. Confronting Daniel was even harder. We had divorced 3 years ago, not because of infidelity, or so I thought, but because we had grown apart. I had never suspected that his growing distance was because of an affair, let alone with my own sister. When I called him, he sounded surprised, but agreed to meet. We chose a neutral location, a coffee shop we used to frequent when we were still happy. What's this about? He asked, sitting across from me. I placed Emma's phone on the table and watched as recognition dawned on his face. You found out, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. 6 years late, but yes, I replied. How could you do this to me? To us? He looked down, shame written all over his face. It was wrong, and I'm sorry. I've regretted it every day since. Regret doesn't erase what you did, I said, my voice shaking. You didn't just cheat on me. You betrayed me with my sister. But as I sat there, I couldn't help but remember the man I had fallen in love with. There had been a time when Daniel was my safe haven, the one who made my world brighter. I remembered our first date, how he'd nervously offered me his coat when the evening turned chilly, how his eyes had lit up when I laughed at his terrible jokes. It made the betrayal all the more bitter, knowing what we had once shared. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sorrow, and reflection. I had always prided myself on being a forgiving person, but this was a betrayal that cut too deep. Emma and Daniel had shattered my trust, not just in them, but in myself. How had I been so blind? In the end, I decided that forgiveness wasn't about letting them off the hook. It was about freeing myself from the weight of their betrayal. I told Emma that I needed time and space to heal, and she respected my wishes. As for Daniel, I told him we could never be friends, but I hoped he found the courage to face his flaws and become a better person. Healing wasn't linear. Some days, I felt strong and ready to move on. Other days, the pain felt as fresh as the moment I first read those messages. But with time, therapy, and the support of friends, I began to rebuild my life. The betrayal had left scars, but they became reminders of my resilience and capacity for growth. Now, years later, I've learned to trust again, not blindly, but with the wisdom that comes from surviving heartbreak. Emma and I are still rebuilding our relationship, slowly and cautiously. As for Daniel, he remains a part of my past, a chapter I've closed but will never forget. The discovery of that old phone changed everything, but it also set me free.